Good morning. This is Rich Nelson with Allendale. Paul Georgi is out for the day, but we'll be back on Tuesday. As far as action, today is Friday, February 17th, and of course that means for traders on the outside markets, they're watching CPI. The government did indicate the consumer price index on a month-to-month basis increased about 0.2%. Versus the previous month. Actually, that was a little less than expectations of a 0.3%. For those of you who monitor CPI on a year-to-year basis, we will point out it rose about 2.9% compared to last year at the same time, and that actually was with expectations. Keep in mind, back in November, the numbers were about 3.4%. So according to the trade's expectation, they will say that inflation or CPI is getting under control. As far as action today for other news, the trade still does expect the Greek bailout to eventually get signed, completed, and all wrapped up here by Monday. So they are very hopeful on those type of signs getting done here. U.S. dollar is currently down about 3 points here today. We have gold trading up $4, and crude oil is up about 44 cents. So as far as outside market influence, maybe very slightly supportive to commodities with a lower U.S. dollar. Over on the grains today, we're calling corn 3 to 5 cents higher, soybeans 7 to 11 cents higher, and wheat is called 5 to 8 cents higher. As far as more news we're looking at here today as far as these grains. Of course, we still have some hangover influence from this news from yesterday when the Argentine government said corn 20.5 to 22 million tons. USDA was 22 on the last report. The Argentine government also indicated soybeans, 43.5 to 45 million tons, and that's actually a bit lower than USDA's latest number of 48 million tons. Over on news for wheat, we'll point out one negative story here. India indicated that they will have a record wheat crop lined up, 88.31 million tons. While that is negative, we will point out that some newer short-term news, so that's more of the summer type of influence, summer pressure, summer supplies. More short-term news, actually a little supportive. Though we did note that that the U.S. received all of the tender from the Egypt tender from the previous day. It was interesting to see that Russia did not even submit a bid as far as supplying. Overnight, some new news indicated that maybe a newspaper out of Ukraine indicated that wheat exporters out of Ukraine are actually voluntarily limiting exports. So as far as the next few months lined up in front of us, between now and maybe June, it appears that not only do we have Russia backing away from the export market, but now we also have Ukraine out of the export market. And of course, that takes out two very key low-price competitors on the world wheat market. So that is considered supportive for wheat. As far as weather here, we are still looking at 1 to 2 inches of rain lined up for Argentina early next week. It'll then turn a little dry, but that's not too much of a concern. The trade is watching Brazil. At this point, it still looks like we won't get any rain in Brazil this weekend or early next week. We're still waiting until mid next week before they get rains. And forecasters are still keeping those a ½ to 1.5 inch rains is still in the forecast for Brazil. So for right now, the trade is a little concerned still about the Brazilian crop itself. We'll point out that the soybeans on the overnight session did reach new highs for this uptrend here. So as far as grains, a little higher here today as far as general tone. Over on livestock, we will point more of a mixed tone here. Over on cattle, a 20 to 30 cent higher trade is expected this morning. The trade is looking at two things here. Number one, of course, is cash cattle. Bids right now 123 to 124. That's equal with last week's trade. Offers 127 to 128. So right now it does appear packers will be paying up for cattle, probably $1 higher, maybe even $2 higher if this market gets a little excited here. We will point out, aside from cash cattle, the second thing we're talking about right now is cattle on feed. Next Friday, USDA will report monthly cattle on feed, and this should be the second report in a row where placements do decline compared to last year levels. So we're calling cattle up 20 to 30 cents here this morning. Over on hogs, as far as this goes, back on Wednesday afternoon, USDA indicated that wholesale pork rose a surprising $2.41. Yesterday afternoon, they kind of took that back with a $1.89 decline for wholesale pork. So expect the April contract to take a 20 to 40 cent lower trade here this morning, and maybe keep a negative viewpoint here for most of the day. As far as overall action here, of course, while today might be pretty exciting as far as markets, keep in mind Monday with President's Day does mean that markets will be closed as far as both grains and livestock during the pit trade session here. So keep that in mind, but hope you guys have a good 3-day weekend and a good time with your family and friends here. This is Rich Nelson with Allendale. If you have any questions, give us a call here at the office, 1-800-262-7538.